hit the, thanks, Trillipole. Okay, so I want to welcome everybody to our February webinar. This is our first webinar of the spring semester. So we are excited to have everybody back, and we have a number of really great speakers lined up for this semester. This semester is kind of unique in compared to the other ones, because starting with Mark today, we have a number of current or recent grads on the speaking agenda. So not only are these people who are out doing great things in the field, but they're people that are either in our program or just graduated. So it's really great to be able to see those practical applications that our students are doing. Before I turn it over to Mark, I did just have a couple quick announcements that I wanted to make. One of them is I'm going to post a link in the chat right now. Our Public Health Preparedness School Store is open for the next few days, or the next few weeks. It's going to be open until I believe it's the 21st of February. So, you know, shirts, sweatshirts, hats, that kind of stuff. We were able to add polo shirts because we had a request. So if there's something in there that you don't see but you want, please let me know and we can add it for the next iteration. The stuff's great. Everybody who has gotten stuff has been very, very happy with it. So there's the link. We try to do it twice a year, once in the spring before commencement and once in the fall. So if the plan was, we talked to TD Mills, and if we opened it now and closed it at the end of February, everybody should be able to get their stuff before commencement weekend. So fingers crossed. So I mentioned that we have a lot of current and former students speaking this semester. So our next speaker is going to be on March 2nd, and that's going to be Paula Morgan, who graduated from our program, and now she is a public health service officer. So she's going to be talking both about public health service and specifically about the Indian Health Service, because that is where she works in her specific field. Again, I'll give a shout out for our IAEM student chapter. Our next meeting with them is going to be on February 15th, and I'm going to post another link down here. This is the link to the schedule of all of the IAEM meetings. There are also other links on that page to recordings of previous speakers, some information. It's about the chapter that we're trying to do. It's got information about joining IAEM, about emergency management, and those kind of things. So if you're interested in emergency management, join the student chapter. Once we get enough people, we'll be able to apply for an official status. But right now, we have a number of students that are hosting webinars and working together, like best practices and things like that, to get their AEMs or CEMs. Next point is we've got a couple questions about 597, which is the elective class. I've been talking to Dr. Lengerich about that. So we will be coming out with some information. We have a couple ideas, and if once we kind of finalize our plans, we will advertise what that class is. So I know people are looking for it, and I apologize that we don't have anything out yet, but we will definitely get that out. And last, before I introduce Mark, he is going to talk about advising and mentoring and those sorts of things. And I don't want to steal any of his thunder. I've heard him, I heard him actually work, well, 2-on-1 with somebody. He and another student worked together and helped advise somebody one night. And I was just blown away by what Mark and the other student were able to provide. So this is going to be a great amount of information about how to use your experiences and how to present yourself well to get a position in public health specifically, but the advice that Mark has is just great. And I don't want to steal any of his thunder, so I'll wait until later to actually share this, but Dr. Langridge and I worked together to make a one-pager on some resources that we'll share about advising and mentoring and things like that. And one thing that I really, really want to highlight is that your professors are all here. Like Dr. Langridge is your advisor, most of the current students, if not all, he is your advisor. And I've heard from so many students like, oh, I made it through the program and I didn't have to reach out to my advisor. And I said, like, we're not scary. Like, he's there to help. All of your professors are there to help. So don't feel like if you reach out to us that it's because something's wrong or you need help. Like, we're not the last ditch because you're drowning. You know, we are here for advice and we're here to help. And, you know, we're here to brainstorm, or if you've got questions or if you've got ideas that you want to work on. So reaching out to your advisor is not something to be scared of or to try to avoid. You know, we're here because we want to help and we want to be able to have these conversations with you. So please, please let us know if you've got questions or if there's anything else that you need. And now I am going to introduce Mark, who is a current student in our program, and I've had him in a class, and he's got some amazing stories. I loved reading his discussion posts because he's got an extensive background in the Navy, and he had some, like, when he would rely on practical experiences to help illustrate a situation, it was always going to be interesting. So he enlisted in the Navy in January of '95 as a hospital corpsman, and I had to condense his bio because it was great. It was very interesting to read. But after basic training, he was Naval Hospital Patuxent River. He did tours with the 2nd Battalion, 6th Marine Regiment, and in Camp Lejeune, that Naval Air Station in Sicily, Naval Hospital in South Carolina, where he was the hospital sailor of the year, and where he also made Chief Petty Officer. Patrol Coastal Crew India. He was down at the Naval Medical Center in Portsmouth, where my husband went for a number of visits. He spent some time underway, and then his final command was Naval Medical Forces Atlantic in Portsmouth, Virginia. He was deployed 9 times, but one deployment that he is going to talk about a little bit tonight, he was deployed to Southeast Asia with the Defense Prisoner of War and Missing in Action Accounting Agency. He went to Laos to search for the remains of missing Americans from some of our previous conflicts. And he and his team were successfully able to discover a downed American pilot from the Vietnam War. And he was able to reunite that veteran's family with his remains. In September of 2020, he retired from the military, moved his family back to Pennsylvania, and was employed by Penn State Health as the practice site manager for 2 family practice clinics. He then went to Holy Spirit and Hampden Medical Center, and well, he was the regional site supervisor for Holy Spirit and Hampden Medical Center. He got his Bachelor of Science in Healthcare Management and his Master of Science in Leadership, both from Trident University International. And he is currently with us working towards a graduate certificate in Hospital and Health System Preparedness. And Mark, thank you so much for speaking tonight. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, 25 years in the Navy will kind of throw a lot of information out there, especially with all those different commands and whatnot. So as Jen mentioned, I'm going to talk about some of my experiences that I had after I transitioned out of the military and what I kind of went through in order to land a job. And then I think this is very relevant for graduate students as they finish up their degrees and move into a different career field, whether it's if you're already working while going to college and you want to find something new, or if you're younger and still in your 20s and you really haven't hit the job force out there yet. Like, how do you branch out and how do you sell yourself so you can get those good paying jobs, or at least the jobs that you want. So I put together this presentation. Let me share my screen real quick. All right, can you guys see it?
We can see it.
Okay, awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and there we go. So I put together this presentation called Networking for Your Next Career. It's just a lot of lessons learned that I've gathered from when I went through transition classes, trying to find the job that I wanted to work at, the right position, the right company, and the right area. So I think you'll get a lot of great information out of this, and I'll also share some experiences when it comes to resume writing. Right. So LinkedIn, if I'm sure most of you have already on LinkedIn, but it's such a powerful tool in order to network and to get to know people, especially people who are for companies that you really don't know anybody there. And this is basically the professional or the business person's Facebook account. And this is what, every organization is using this. A lot of your leaders use this. And there are just so many people out there that use LinkedIn. And if you're not already on LinkedIn, you're already behind the power curve. If you are on LinkedIn, you're not really utilizing it, start using it today. You don't have to post things every single day, but, just try to be active a little bit, and then you start building up your network. All right. So you want to develop a strong LinkedIn profile, and you want to be able to overview your skills and experiences, as well as to introduce yourself in a professional manner, and covering your academic background. You're going to want to be able to, reach out to talent agents and recruiters and CEOs and directors and vice presidents and all these other folks, where, you just want to, start to show who you are, what ideas you have, or the interest that you have, that you're in. And so you want to, put together a well profile, and you want to have a well-written headline. You want to definitely show your work and internship experience, academic and or research projects, and also your education and skills. Now, if you're a young college student and you're just now hitting the workforce, you might not have you might think that you don't have a lot of experience to put on there, but take some of the experiences that you've done while in college, and maybe some of the committees that you belong to, or some of the projects that you may have worked on. I know in some of these classes that we're attending, we're involved in teams. And I know some of my, classmates, what we end up doing is we kind of rotate the assignments week by week of who's going to be the leader of that week. And when you have a team of 3 or 4 and you're trying to lead that team, you're already starting to build up that experience of how to lead people in a group setting, whether it's just a handful of people or, a large crowd. And even though we may be online doing the World Campus, there's a lot of jobs out there that have moved to telework and, leading teams, from across the country. I've led teams from across the entire world for one of my last job in the Navy. I had about 20 different direct reports who worked in 20 different hospitals across the United States and Europe. So trying to bring everybody together via the internet and on phone meetings and Zoom and whatnot was very challenging, but that's the way we're moving to. You can have your partner that you work with, on the other side of the globe, and it just makes it very interesting and challenging, but it helps build your network up as well. Right. So you want to make sure you scrub your Facebook and your Instagram and all of your other personal fun social media accounts, because when you start applying for jobs, they're going to be snooping around to find out who you are and what you do. And if you have your Facebook or your Instagram that's just wide open that anybody can look at it, and here you are posting all these crazy pictures of, that time that you went to the frat party or where you did all these other stuff, are you going to be a liability for that company? And a lot of people don't realize that there's, privacy settings that you can go in there and change all that. So like for my Facebook account, one, if I don't know who you are, you're not going to be on my Facebook account. And 2, I have it private, so that way the public can only see certain pictures and certain posts that I want them to see. So you want to go ahead and make sure you scrub everything, so that way you're just not sharing everybody in the world what you do for fun, because that's nobody's business. but employers will look at that stuff. One that you want them to look at is your LinkedIn, and that's why it's your professional Facebook account. All right, so you want to choose the right pick and a noticeable headline. So you don't want to get a picture where you're with, a couple friends or your spouse or your loved one or your cat. You want something that's very professional, or maybe not too professional, like where you're wearing, you don't have to wear a suit and tie. Like you can see in this picture right here, he's just got a collared shirt on. It's just a nice picture, headshot of him. And then you want to have, maybe a nice background of something that you are working in. So like for those of us in public health preparedness, have something, related to that on there. On my LinkedIn profile, I have a picture that I took of just my rank insignia. And I think it looked, it's very calm, but it's also, to me, it's very inviting and interesting to see it because it's, just kind of explains who I am. You want to have a headline right there. So as you can see for this headline, it says, Senior Recruiter at SHPO, I spark joy in recruiting and enable candidates to be successful. And, a lot of people, they put in there basically what their position is and where they work at. Well, that's great and everything, but what are you doing to sell yourself to make you stand out from other people? Some people use little emojis, like a little star, something like that, kind of makes it a little pop out a little bit. But, you can have a little bit of fun with this. That way you're a little bit more memorable than the next person. And then you also want to make sure that you have, where you're located or the general area of where you're at. You don't have to have your exact hometown, but, this gentleman right here, he's in San Francisco, California. So that way, if recruiters are looking for people, hey, there's somebody here from San Francisco that's got the skills that I'm looking for. You have to excuse me because I'm just getting over COVID, so I'm still, feeling a little under the weather, so I'm kind of congested. So you also want to create a strong summary, which allows you to introduce yourself. And you want to think of this as your elevator pitch. Now, if you don't know what your elevator pitch is, think about if you are that new intern who just got hired for this big company, and you are in the elevator and you're going from the ground floor all the way up to the 15th floor. And here walks in a vice president or the CEO. That is your time to sell yourself to that person of, hey, this is who, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm so-and-so, and this is who I am, and this is what I do, and I'm very interested in this. So that's your elevator pitch. You have about 30 seconds to go from the ground floor to the 15th floor to try to sell yourself to that CEO. And, you want to put it together where they're going to kind of remember you, but you're also going to get the point across of, who you are. And that's what this summary is all about. And you want to do it in like that, include the present, past, and future. So as you can see right here, what I wrote up, and this isn't mine, by the way, but this is something I just put together, says, I'm currently pursuing my Master's of Professional Studies in Homeland Security with a focus in public health preparedness through Penn State University's College of Medicine. And I plan to leverage my coursework and professional experience to pursue a career assisting state and local governments and develop plans in disaster response. So that's just a very quick, shows, where you're coming from, what you're currently doing, and what your goals are, right? And then you wanted to have that on your LinkedIn profile. And we'll talk about elevator pitch here in a little bit. Now you want to go on and explain your education and work experience. This is the part where you can expand upon what you've done, so you can get those jobs out there. Your LinkedIn is very similar, or should be very similar to your resume for the jobs that you're applying for. This is your background, and you want to use bullet format. And when I reviewed resumes for people who I was trying to hire, a lot of them were just very short, and there really wasn't much information in their resume for their work experience. What I have done for my resumes, and this is something that I know a lot of others of us from the military, we do it as well, is we do a lot what's called cause and effect. You did this, which resulted in that. So basically, what you could do is you could say that, you put together this committee of X amount of people where you created a project which improved the process of this, whatever, which decreased time spent for employee or for customers and increased revenue of X amount of dollars. So you did something which resulted in something else. That's what the employers want to see when you do your experience. And don't be afraid to use numbers. They love to see numbers. It's so easy because they just pop out. Do you see these two examples right here? You can see that, a $50,000 budget with 100% inventory compliance, that just stands out. And those are going to be the little key things that employers are going to want to see when they're quickly looking at a resume. Because keep in mind, your resume is only going to be probably looked at, for about 30 seconds, and they're going to move on to the next one. So what are you putting in there that's going to catch their attention? All right, then you want to add your any type of valuable skills, honors, and awards, and maybe some organizations you belong to. So when you put together your skills on LinkedIn and also on your resume, don't forget about those soft skills that are so important in any type of organization that you're going to work in. They want to see that, how can you, are you good at deconflicting conflict? Are you good at, communicating? Are you good at, leading teams or working on projects? Those are the soft skills that a lot of employers are wanting to see. The technical skills, that comes with the degrees and the certifications that you get. But the soft skills are very, very important nowadays. They want to get managers and leaders that are, very compassionate and they know how to talk to people, and they have empathy. Empathy is a big one right now in leadership. And there's a lot of the old school leaders, they didn't have the empathy. Well, that's what a lot of employees are wanting to look for, is because if you have a leader who is empathetic, they understand. Maybe they haven't gone through the same thing that you went through, but they at least understand. So including empathy into your soft skills is very, very crucial in today's marketplace. All right. So once you get your LinkedIn built, you want to start to grow your network. And, for college students, we're already building our network. We got our college professors that we're communicating with all the time, and they see the work that we do. So right there is probably your first place where you want to start to grow your network. Find out if your college professor has a LinkedIn account and request access from them. Talk to your classmates and find out if your classmates have those LinkedIn. If they don't, convince them to get a LinkedIn account, and you guys can work on it together. As you start to go out there and apply for different positions or try to go through those different specific careers or companies that you want to go for, reach out to those recruiters and talent agents and VPs and people in HR, because all of them have LinkedIn accounts. And it's easy for you to go ahead and just hey, I see that you are the vice president in this organization. I would like to reach out to you on LinkedIn, and just so I can get a better understanding of your organization and, just kind of follow you and see what's going on. I've got so many CEOs and presidents and vice presidents on my LinkedIn account just by reaching out to them. And there's so many companies that I follow, and I do communicate with some of them from time to time. And it really has grown my network. And I contribute my employment at Penn State Health because of the fact that I reached out to 2 senior directors at Penn State and a vice president. And once I started communicating with them, I actually requested them to review my resumes, and they helped me tailor my resume to meet those jobs that I wanted to apply for. Next thing you know, I got the job. So just that networking is so important. All right. Also, you want to start posting on LinkedIn. You want to stay with stuff that's, positive, something relevant to the career that you want to go into. I like to post a lot of things about leadership and development and coaching and mentoring. That's what I like to look at because, I got a degree in a master's in leadership, and I find it very interesting to, be able to coach and lead people, but also throw in there certain other things related to my degree that, that I'm working towards. And also stay away from politics. I see a lot of people post politics on there. Just stay away from it. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole with people. Stay away from religion and anything else that you would deem controversial. That's what Facebook's for. That's what Instagram's for. Go to LinkedIn and stay professional with it. All right. So as I mentioned before, you're going to start talking to a lot of these senior people on there. And once you become a little bit more comfortable and you find that company that you want to work for, you want to get a mentor. And they will kind of help guide you in the right direction. As I mentioned before, there's a couple of senior directors at Penn State Health who I was networking with, and we would talk once every couple of weeks. They would give me advice, and I got them to review my resumes, and I use that as a win because I got the job. Talk to them about some common interests that you may have. Maybe the two of you really like the Olympics, and that will help build up that trust and that respect that you're going to have when you get that mentor. All right, so now you want to work on your resume. So as I mentioned before, your LinkedIn and your resume should look very similar. However, when you're applying for different positions, you're going to have different resumes. When you are putting together a resume, let's say you want to be a manager for this, like say this, department, whatever it is, you're going to want to write your resume for that job posting, because you could have another position that you might be applying for that's going to be totally different. So again, I'm going to use myself as an example. When I applied to Penn State Health for the practice site manager position, I focused a lot of my resume on practice site management, which I do have a lot of experience with. However, when I started applying for different positions after my year on board, I ended up getting a job as a regional safety supervisor. I have a lot of safety experience from my time in the Navy, so I had to change up my resume to reflect the job that I'm applying for and had it focus more on safety experience with leadership and management, more so than a practice site management. So as you apply for these jobs, you just can't use one resume and expect it to work for every single job. It's just not going to work. All right, so your resume, there's a lot of companies out there that have these fancy templates that you can use. LinkedIn's one of them. Glassdoor's another one, Indeed. And then even Microsoft, they've got, like, if you go to a Microsoft Word, they have like a template on there for resumes. You don't want to use those. And the reason being is they throw in a lot of like designs and pictures, changes up the font a little bit. And when you submit the stuff, it gets scanned in, and almost every organization now, they use this software program that scans everything and it uploads it into a database. So when you start throwing in pictures and all this other stuff, it's going to kind of throw it off a little bit, and it might not pick up everything that you want it to pick up. It's going to pick up other things on accident, or might even reject it altogether. Also, when you're applying for these positions, as I mentioned before, you're going to write to the job description. So take a look at the job description and take out keywords that's in there and make sure that's in your resume, because that program is going to be looking for those keywords. And if you don't have some of that stuff, you're going to probably go into the recycle bin, and nobody even saw it except for the computer program, and you might get passed over. So make sure you definitely write to the job position. Again, I mentioned before about cause and effect. You want to do it in bullet format, and include your LinkedIn webpage on there, because they are going to go there and look at your LinkedIn information. Don't use colored fonts. I would just use just standard black 12-pitch fonts, easy to read, like Times New Roman. And you can use bold, but don't underline it, don't italicize anything. And stay away from marriage status, race, gender, sexual orientation, religion, political affiliation, and disability. They will ask you those questions when you apply for the jobs, but that's more for a statistical thing. They should not be looking at you based on any of those areas because, you know, they want to have a non-biased approach of who they're going to hire. All right. Also, don't apply for jobs that you don't qualify for. If the job says, you know, Bachelor of Science in nursing required, and you don't have your BSN, you're going to get rejected. So don't even apply for that. However, if it says BSN preferred, and maybe you have a background in clinical medicine, go ahead and explain that on your resume. Who knows, you might be able to get that job. So here's an example of, this is from Hire Heroes USA, which is a company that reaches out to veterans and they help us write our resumes. Again, this is focused for somebody in the Army. So there's going to be a lot of terminology on here that most people are not going to really understand if you've never served. But this is the format that I use. And I just think it's a really great resume. I've always been told how the resume looks, how, you know, they really like the layout. They like how it's paced out, and it's very easy to read. A lot of people are under the assumption that you need to put everything you can all on one paper. It doesn't have to be on one paper. It's based on how much experience you have is how you want to lay out your resume. So if, for example, my resumes are about this long, they're about 2 pages long because I have a lot to put in there. But if you don't have a whole lot, then you want to keep it shorter. I also, I'll share all this information. I have this on a PDF that I'll share with everybody as well. All right. So when you get ready for your next interview, you want to make sure that you practice. You want to continuously practicing it because you're going to be going in front of either an individual or a group of people. It could be on Zoom, could be in person. And, you know, you want to be able to practice often with your friends and family. When you do practice, you want to be able to dress as if it's the real thing. If you're going to be doing a Zoom interview, make sure you wear the full thing. Don't just put on a jacket and tie and be in a pair of shorts, because you never know. You may get up and walk away on accident and they're going to see you there in the shorts. So don't be like Step Brothers and wear a suit like this. You know, be something a little bit more professional. You know, this looks good. This would be more suited for most of your interviews. Right. Don't get discouraged if you don't get the job. You might be overqualified. That happened to me quite a few times. If you're underqualified for a position or you don't get the position, it's okay to reach out and find out, hey, you know, what was it that why did I not get selected? I recently did an interview for FEMA. I made it to the second and final interview with the regional director, and I did not get the position. I reached out to them a couple of weeks ago and said, hey, I would like to have a meeting, find out what can I do to improve myself. And last Friday, I actually had that meeting with the regional director. And, I found out the reason I didn't get the position is because somebody was hired internally who had all that experience that they were looking for, which I totally understand. But she did give me a lot of key pointers on, how I can better myself if I do want to get a job in the future with FEMA. So it's okay to reach out to the people that you've done interviews with and ask for feedback. They may give you the time, they may not, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So before I was talking about elevator pitch, if you get the opportunity to go to career fairs, go to as many as you can and just go around and start talking to people. That's the chance where you're going to be able to sell your elevator pitch. It's you can give your business card, give your resume, and just get to find out and know that company, and that's where you can practice it. All right, so when you are interviewing for the job you want, make sure you do some research for the company. There's been quite a few times I had potential candidates come and interview with me, and they didn't know anything about the company. Like, well, why do you want to work here? Well, because it's Penn State. Well, what's so special about Penn State? Why is it that what do you know about the company? Do a little bit of research on the internet, like the news. One of the things that I was looking at when I was trying to get a job is I was looking at Tower Health out of Reading, UPMC, WellSpan, and Penn State Health. And when I was doing my research on the internet, I've noticed that like Tower Health, they weren't doing too well during the pandemic. They started letting people go. And, you don't want to go for a company that's maybe not doing the best. With Penn State Health, when I got the position or when I was interviewing for it, I knew that they were growing. So when they said, why do you want to come to Penn State Health? Well, I see on the news that you guys have been growing your organization. You just recently bought St. Joe's in Reading, and you're in the process of building 2 new hospitals. I want to be a part of that organization, and I want to be able to grow with it. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be really impressed that you've done the research on it. I have a list of 50 questions that I'll share with the group. I'll send it out. I'll send it out to Jen, and so that way she can share it with everyone. Some really good information on there. And then make sure you always have your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses. Every interview you're going to be asked that, or just about every interview, they're always going to ask you, what are your 3 strong traits and what are your 3 traits that you could improve on? And don't give an answer that they're going to expect. Be honest, be sincere about it. One of my challenges that I have, my biggest weakness is I need to learn how to slow down, because with my history in the military, we're just always on the go, 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 go. And now I have to learn how to scale that back a little bit. And I'm still having that problem, even though I've been out for almost 2 years. And so I just need to slow down a little bit. Right. And also, they may ask, what are you going to bring to the organization? What's going to make you stay? What's so different about you than the next person? And also have some questions at the end to be ready to ask, because they will ask you, do you have any questions for us? That's your time to ask them. What are the, what's the work environment like? How's the staff and things like that. So when you're done with the interview, send a quick email to them, just telling them thank you for the interview. That'll show that you're very interested in it. Don't contact the interviewer though. Send it out to the recruiter or the talent agent. Don't get discouraged if you don't get the position. Request a follow-up meeting like I mentioned before, and make sure you keep track of all the different jobs you're applying for. So like myself, when I got out of the military, it was in the midst of the pandemic. I applied for over 130 different jobs throughout Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, and a couple down in Florida. And I was keeping track of that. Every time I would hear something back, I would, check that off. Well, didn't get accepted for that interview. So make sure you keep track of all your interviews. All right. So what happens when you do get the job? Eventually you will land a job, but don't get discouraged if it's not the one that you were really banking on. You're competing against so many other people out there for jobs that for whatever reason, somebody else may have gotten selected. That's okay. As you continue to progress on, maybe that job that you're dying for will open up, and now you've been able to build up your experience, and you've are now more qualified for that position. The recruiter will reach out to you and will negotiate you with the pay. But keep in mind that many companies, they have a certain budget that they must meet. So if they don't go over a certain amount, it's a lot of times it's either due to your experience or because they can't go over a certain budget. Make sure you send out a thank you, letting them know that, hey, you just got the job. Let the interviewer know that, that you really appreciate it, because that's going to show that you're, being very humble about getting this job. And then you're going to go through the background checks, and then, go ahead and make your post on LinkedIn. So, people can know, and you'll get a lot of kudos from people, and it's going to continue to grow your network. And then, once you say, hey, I just got a job working for this company and I'm very excited to start here in a couple of weeks, then you're going to start to be able to build your network for people who already work there that you weren't networked before. So you got that job. Congratulations. A couple other things I just want to kind of go over a little bit that a lot of people probably don't know about. Federal employment, especially in this career field that we're studying for. Go to usajobs.gov, and there are so many positions that are out there, whether it's with FEMA or Department of Defense or Homeland Security or the Department of Health. There's just so many jobs across the entire country that is, right in this area of field that you're studying for. So go to usajobs.gov and take a look at it. And as you can see here, there's different types of categories that you may fit into. But when you apply for a federal position, your resume is not going to be 1 or just 2 pages long. It's going to be anywhere from 4 to 8 pages or longer, based on what you need to put in the resume. So as you can see right here, I found a copy of this from online, and they want to know everything about you and about the job that you were at before. When I applied for FEMA, my FEMA resume was, I think it was about 6 pages long. And I had to include on there my different pay grades in the military, how much I got paid for each pay grade, how many hours I worked per week, points of contacts for each position. And it just, over time, it just builds up that entire resume. Also, even though you might have a high paying position for the private company that you're for, trying to get something very similar or equal to it in the federal government, you're going to have to go for something less. And that was one of the other things that the director in FEMA told me, is the position I applied for was a GS-13. And she says, you are qualified for it, but you need to kind of work your way up to it in the federal world. So she told me that I would have to apply for a GS-11. And for me, that would be a little bit of a pay cut right now, but over time, you're able to move your way up. But once you get your foot in the door, you're in the door, and it's a lot easier to get other positions as you progress. Some other helpful sites, clearance jobs. Most on this that's watching this probably won't be able to get positions for clearance jobs, because you already have to have an active or a current clearance. So this is really good if you already are coming out of the military, or if you've already currently working for the government. So let's say you get a job with FEMA, and then you get a position that requires a clearance. Now you can go into clearance jobs and look for other positions that requires a security clearance. And then don't forget to look at state and local government websites. And then there's a couple other websites on here: ONET Online, Career One Stop, and Salary.com. Those websites are amazing. If you've never heard of them, go to those websites. Again, I'm going to share this with everyone, and each one of these, they're hyperlinked to those websites. So it's just some great resources that many people don't even know about. So that's pretty much my quick 30 minutes of networking, resume building, and just trying to better yourself, so that way you're more successful when you try to get into those careers that you want.
Thanks so much, Mark. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, before I go on to the next PowerPoint, because I wanted to talk about, one of the things I did in the military that I know, Jen, I know you're interested in. Does anybody have any questions about that?
I think you can go on as far as I'm concerned. I am anxious to hear it. I have questions too, but please do your thing. I do have to leave at 9 exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll go ahead and move on to this next one. And this is Jen was kind of briefly, she kind of touched on it briefly. But all right. Are you able to see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right. So my last deployment in the military, I did a 2-month deployment to Laos, which, if you're not very good with geography, it is tucked into the jungles next to Vietnam and Thailand. Probably one of the poorest, definitely one of the poorest countries in the world. And many people, probably most Americans, don't realize that we are still trying to find those who never came home from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and other conflicts that we've had in the past. And we are committed to bring closure to those families and to bring them home. So this will be a quick presentation of my experience when I went to Laos in 2019. So DPAA, its mission, they're out of Hawaii. in Pearl Harbor. And their mission is to provide the fullest possible accounting for mission personnel to their families and the nation. The accounting community is charged with locating and recovering and identifying the remains of fallen service members. And from the time that I put this together in 2019, there were over 82,000 Americans still unaccounted for since World War II. And they're from all across the globe. So we have people missing in Europe, Asia, the South Pacific, even other places like in Africa. We still have people who just never made it home. All right, I'm going to play a quick video. Let me know if, hold on, give me 1 second. I got too many windows open. Oh, here we go. All right, so I'm going to play a quick video. All right, can you guys hear and see that?
Mm-hmm. I just hear a little bit of music. Is that it?
Yeah, it's right now.
Yeah.
The best thing about going on missions with DPA, to me, is the travel to places that I would never normally get to see. I've been able to travel to islands, to Europe, to Laos, to Vietnam, and it's always a new experience for me. The most rewarding aspect of working with DPA is the ability to bring closure to the families, to fulfill the promise that we will bring their loved ones back home. I've enjoyed working with DPAA. It's an honor to be assigned to the agency, and I think it's a great way for me to finish out my military career after 24 years.
Every single mission is different, every single team is different, and every single mission and team has its own memorable experience. You know, it's got to be that moment on every team when you recover something that you know is evidentiary, and being able to bring that home, it just stands out every mission, every time we find something. I love working for DPA. Some of the things I like most about DPA is just the variety of types of jobs that we get to do. So I'm a licensed war investigator by trade in DPA, but being able to come out here as a recovery team leader has only grown my experience base and kind of broadened me a little bit. But working out here in DPA is awesome. It's probably the best. It is the best job I've had in the Air Force since I've been in the Air Force. This team is quite possibly the best team I've ever worked with out of all my missions. We've got a really good team. Everybody's hardworking. Nobody's afraid to get dirty. Everybody's willing to take on the challenging tasks. So I have zero issues with this team. In fact, I'm very, very happy with this team.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, can you see that PowerPoint again?
We can see it.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I had to close that window. All right, so you can see the PowerPoint?
Yep, it's up.
Okay. All right. So that was just a quick video from DPA. I really like that video because it really shows a lot of the things that we're doing. So as I mentioned before, there's 82,000 plus Americans unaccounted for. And this map right here just pretty much shows where a lot of the places where they're still looking for unaccounted Americans. All right, so this is my team right here. I think most of these pictures from here on out, actually, yeah, rest of these pictures from here on out are my team when we were in Laos. So in order to find the remains, a negotiation must be done with the host nation to get access for recovery. They send investigation teams out. They talk to eyewitnesses who actually maybe saw the airplane go down during that time. So they get a general idea of where to look for these individuals that never came home. If we have enough lead or a good idea that there may be a positive person there that to bring home, they'll send anywhere from 10 to 18 military and civilian team members out, and we actually use archaeological methods to they dig it out. So you can see this gentleman right here in the bottom right corner in the gray shirt. He was our archaeologist. He's a civilian, and they lay out these grids on the ground, and we dig into the dirt, and we sift through the dirt trying to find stuff. One gentleman right there with the metal detector, he's actually looking, one, not only for metal, but two, we also come across a lot of unexploded ordnance in that area, and we had to be careful of it. And I'll talk more about that here in a second.
Before you go on, I'm just going to interrupt with a quick question. The map that you had, are there really that many unaccounted people in North America? So
when you think of North America, that includes Hawaii. So during World War II, remember when Hawaii was bombed, we had a lot of Americans who are at the bottom of Pearl Harbor.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah. I asked the same question too. I was like, really, in 2000 or in World War II? But yeah, that's what it's from.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so my job over there, and this actually is very relatable to some of the things that we're learning in these courses. My job over there was the medical support, and I don't know if you can see it, but the picture in the top right corner or top left corner, that's me with the gray ball cap. That's actually a Penn State ball cap that I had on. So even before I became a student, I'm representing. So I just had to throw that out there. So they'll send somebody like myself who was an enlisted medical provider. I worked in the capacity like a physician assistant, and I provided care to not only our team members, but also to the villagers that are out there. So you can see I'm treating this one villager here in the blue shirt. He stepped on a nail, so I had to put a bandage on there. But also we'll have a traveling surgeon. This gentleman that came with us, he's in the Army, and he goes around and does medical assistance, providing care to the local villagers. So that's one of the things that we do is, in order for us to get access in there, we give free medicine to their villagers. And here they are providing care to the local villagers. Again, public health is very important for us because some of the major concerns we have is malaria, dengue, leishmaniasis, giardia, animal bites, and even, unexploded ordnance blasts is something that we had to be very careful. Luckily, we didn't get too many people that were sick over there. We did get one person who was stung by a scorpion, and yeah, he was down and out pretty hard. It was one of those really nasty ones that if you were an elderly or a young person, he could have potentially died. So we had to be careful of that. All right. So what happens if we find someone? So as I mentioned before, we sift through the dirt and we're looking for, human remains like bones and teeth, maybe any type of life-saving equipment that the pilot may have been wearing when the plane went down. And, we'll be clearing areas, many times larger than a football field, and just going through it, dig after dig, bucket after bucket, and just sifting through it. And the local villagers will help us sift through the dirt as we progress. A little bit of geographical background about Laos. It is a communist country. It's one of the few communist countries left in the world. Very, very rugged, very forested. And we were down in the southeastern quadrant of Laos, out in the mountains. We were like probably only about 10 miles from the Vietnam border. And everybody's probably heard of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. That's where we were at. We were pretty much on the Ho Chi Minh Trail looking for a pilot. As I mentioned before, Laos had more bombs dropped in that country than any other country on the face of the earth. There are more than 80 million bombs that never exploded, and annually 50 Laos people are killed from bombs. So the picture at the top left and bottom right, those are two different bombs that we actually found. That one on the top left is a 500-pound bomb that never went off. So when we find these, it's an all stop, and we have our EOD personnel, and they actually end up having to remove it. They'll take it somewhere, and then they'll explode it so we can get back to work. The picture on the top right, I don't know if you can kind of see it, next to the fence, there's a large bomb that they use as like a decoration. So you'll see these bombs all over the country. This is what village life looks like in Laos. The children love it when we handed out candy to them. So, this is pretty much what it is. It's just like what you would see in National Geographic or on one of those wildlife channels. Wildlife in Laos, basically it's dangerous. These creatures have to survive. So you have these huge tarantulas, or that walking stick that I found. That was actually my hand right there. As a large walking stick that we found. And, the largest scorpions in the world are there. So a lot of dangerous animals there that, are poisonous or, or whatever. So there's just certain things we had to be careful of. The cuisine, very South Asian. I remember one of the comments we were talking about in one of our in our class, Jen, about this substance that I had that I didn't realize that I forget which one is it. Tuberculosis is in cattle, and we were eating cattle out at this picnic. So the picture in the top right with the chilies, that's the picnic that I was at, and we were they had this green sauce that you would dip the cooked meat in, and it was very gamey. It tasted like manure. It was just really, really bad. Come to find out, it was the bile from the cow, and I had to stop after that. But the picture down in the bottom center, that was our archaeologist. That's actual rat head. So they eat a lot of bush meat over there. So just one of the things you got to be careful, especially if you're somebody medical like me, and you don't want people to get sick from these different types of foods. We did have a lot of downtime and rest and recovery. So you can see the one person diving into the water. That's the picnic we went to. It was out in the jungle, so we went swimming. I was very concerned about Giardia. Luckily, nobody got sick. So, and this is pretty much our team. So we did find the remains of a pilot. We found the bones of him, and we were able to get the pilot, what remains we did find. We did a ceremony right before we left, and the pilot flew home and was escorted back to Hawaii. They did the DNA test on him, and was able to be repatriated with his family.
Do you have any communication or anything with the family? Like, do the teams that find people, or do you have to keep that emotional distance?
So the teams that we go with, we're augmented where they'll send out like a tasker. And as you saw in the last picture, it's Army, Air, it's all branches go over. And we don't have any interaction with them. There's, high up people that work at the agency themselves who coordinate with it. So a lot of times family members will go to like, they'll reach out to Congress and say, hey, I've never heard of, my husband never came home from Vietnam. And, you told me that you would bring him home. And, a lot of times it goes through Congress for some of these bodies to come home. But it also depends on how accessible they are. So like if they're at the bottom of the ocean, it's going to be very hard for us to bring somebody home. So yeah, that was just one of probably the most humble job I've ever done in the military.
It sounds like an amazing experience.
Yes.
So does anybody have any other questions for Mark? I know we're running a little bit over 9, so thanks for hanging out a little bit later. But any other questions for Mark? It doesn't look like it right now. Dr. Langridge said thank you. He had to run to a meeting, but great advice and experience, loved it. I'm so glad that we connected and that you are in our program. So that was the message from him. So as always, we will post Mark's presentation. Like I said at the beginning, it was a lot of really great information. I know that going through this whole process can be pretty frustrating and mentally draining, but with the advice and information that Mark provided today, hopefully it will be less stressful and less emotionally draining. So again, our next talk is going to be on March 2nd, and I will have this posted. So Trulipol is also going to post the one-pager that Dr. Langridge and I were working on, so you will have access to that as well. And if nobody has anything else, then I will say thank you again, Mark, and good night to everybody.
And I'll send you the first PowerPoint and a couple other files that I have. I'll send them to you so you can share them with everybody else. I'm not going to share the one from Laos. It's just, I can't get that one to, I mean, the presentation is fine. I just can't have the PowerPoint go out.
Okay, so we can post your whole talk on
Yes.
the, okay, perfect.
Yes, you can do that. I just can't share the PowerPoint itself.
I got you. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So.
Well, have a great night then, and I hope you feel better. Thanks so much for doing this, even though you didn't feel